What is up, everyone? Brandon Ferst, aka Ferst Report. It is Sunday, October 25th, 2020. Look, it's one day late. Usually we do this show on Saturday, but it worked out this week, and you'll understand why as we get into this show. But it is Sunday, and it is time to talk with my friend and co-host, Coach Brandon Luipian. And this is, of course, another episode of Two Bs on a Pod. You know, you got two Ps in a pod. Well, we are two Bs on a pod, breaking down everything the sporting world is giving us throughout the week. Coach Luipian, how are you doing today?
Good morning, Mr. First. And yes, I look forward to every Saturday, but as the day played out for us and this show, you know, it just happened to work out. I was actually hosting a group of fine ladies at my tennis club, and they were in from Texas, and they booked this group lesson 3 weeks in advance. And it was just one of those things that it was booked 3 weeks ago. It crept up on me, and I'm like, oh, shoot, it's during our pod time. I just, I brain farted. But they were great, and yesterday was great, and this past week of sports from Saturday to Sunday has been really entertaining. You know, the NBA finals had completed prior to, and we mentioned last week, hey, we're on to the World Series, and what a World Series it's been, right?
Yeah, and we will get to that craziness, and that is a big reason why I am grateful or happy that we did this today, because if we did not do this today, we would have completely missed that craziness that was last night's Game 4. But before we get into all that, let's just give you a little reminder. Obviously, you can follow both of us on Twitter and social media at myself at FerstReport, FERST Report, and Coach Luipian on Twitter at Portland76er. Follow us for everything, all these pods, all the episodes, and really just whatever we're dropping. A lot of the knowledge we drop and the bets we drop come, in kind of a split second. We're not going to come out and do a pod and let you know that this is a great bet. You're going to have to follow us on Twitter, and make sure you head to YouTube, and the people we're working with, Ramblin Gamblin Sports Network, all of their content is really, really good. It's a lot of betting, situational stuff, and a lot of it's stuff that I don't know. A lot of it's UFC, a ton of knowledge there. So make sure you follow and Gamblin on Twitter, and then follow the Ramblin Gamblin Sports Network on YouTube, that channel where you'll get us and everybody else. And now let's move on to the meat of this show and something that we both bring to the table, and that is our expertise on our individual football teams. As you can see, Coach Luipian is not wearing that beautiful Drew Brees Super Bowl jersey just because he likes black and gold. He is wearing it because he is a huge Saints fan, and we are going to take advantage of that. We are going to take advantage of the fact that Coach Luipian has watched countless Saints games, more than any of us really even want to. He is our expert on that as we get ready for a real big NFC South matchup today. What do you have for us today with the Saints and the Panthers? Currently, the line was 7.5. For the Saints, and the over-under was 51.
So leading through this past week's bye week for the Saints, everyone was excited about the return of Michael Thomas, all-world wide receiver, big contract. And then ever since throughout the bye week, it's been nothing but negativity. He knocked some dude out on his team. Now it's a hamstring that's going to keep him out of this week. And as of this morning, it looks like it might be keeping him out of week 8 now. So not a lot of good on that, on his, wide receiver front as far as, him personally, nor good for the Saints. The second thing that's come out is now that Emmanuel Sanders is out. He's actually in quarantine. And so there's two of our top wide receivers. And while Michael Thomas has been out, Emmanuel Sanders has definitely been the guy that stepped up his level of play and has carried through the week before the bye, and then just hoping to get into this bye with a healthy receiving core. Well, it's just not happening. this all went down past Wednesday. The early numbers was -7.5. Saints. What was that over under again? 51?
51. This was as of Tuesday. As you continue, I will get the exact numbers.
Yeah, well, going into this game, Carolina Panthers have been one of the hotter teams in the NFL. They what 4-5. This is the Saints' second NFC South game of the season after defeating the Bucs in Week 1. And to be honest, like they're sitting at 3-2. Yeah, all the Saints fans know, hey, this is a typical Saints start. But by now, this week, we're not dealing with not having a number 1 wide receiver, not having a number 2 wide receiver, and a defensive secondary that there's no Janoris Jenkins. So it's still patchwork. And the thoughts of trading certain players or the thoughts of bringing in certain players is abound right now in the South. So, looking at that -7.5 Saints, I'm definitely going to go with the hotter team versus the more inconsistent team. I still believe the Saints will win. The storyline goes Teddy B plays well in the dome. Hey, well, it was a small sample size. So, yeah, you could say that because while it was his time in the dome, dude went undefeated, So, Saints to win, Carolina to cover the 7.5, and that line may change during the game.
It did drop down to 6.5.
That's still a high number.
Yeah, I'm on the same boat.
I could see Will Lutz hitting the game winner. Just the way the game's been managed throughout this season and early on in every season's past. 51 is still kind of high, given the fact that the Saints are out to their top 2 receivers. I'm not sure Christian McCaffrey's back. So there's some depletion in, let's just say, star power in this game. It's probably going to be a run control kind of game. Get Murray going, get Kamara going, get Jared Cook going. And those guys, they put up numbers. Kamara is putting up the best numbers right now. But then on the other end, like who do you have for Carolina to put up those kind of numbers and put it in the end zone? I see this as a low-scoring game. I'm going to go with the under 51. But the Saints to win but not cover. So
I like that.
Yeah, I think that's the way it's playing out in regards to COVID reasons, injury reasons, and just tempo reasons. I think COVID's really cost a lot of NFL teams rhythm getting into week 6. Usually week 5, week 6, Saints are starting to steamroll. Not this up and down, kind of thing. Injuries are abound across the league, and a lot of it has to do with the no OTAs and the voluntaries and stuff like that. And so it's not just hurting us, but it's hurting everyone. But, covering this game, stay under the 51. Stay under 51.
Yeah, I like that. I will say for Carolina, I mean, my goodness, you would have told me they're 3-2.
Right.
I would have told you, okay, Christian McCaffrey already has 1,000 yards because I don't know how else this team is going to score points. Well, guess what? Christian McCaffrey's been out since I think week 2 or week 3, right. And this team has played well. I mean, they've been in situations where maybe probably could be better. I mean, they could maybe even be 4-1 in a situation that they could be.
I've read early posts before week 1 that Carolina may be that sleeper team, not Tampa Bay, not Atlanta, but it's Saints and Carolina. And the way they've been playing, it's kind of like, yeah, you know what? You got steady Teddy. He's not going to turn the ball over. He's going to be a game manager, especially in those crucial times where you got to get that first down when you're 3rd and short or 3rd and long. He's going to be able to manage that. He's not a scrambler. He's not a Lamar Jackson. He's not Patrick Mahomes. He's a game manager in a way that during that run where he made with the Saints, where he went 5-0, there was nothing pretty about it. And Who says games got to be pretty? They just got to be tactically and precise and controlled. And that's Teddy at his best. So I'm like super happy for him. Unfortunately, it's against my Saints.
Yeah.
And you know what? Rightfully so. We, as much as I wanted to keep him, hey, the kid deserved the reward to move on. He got the contract. He got better. He healed. And everybody in New Orleans is happy for him in that regard. Just not against
minus the 2 weeks that he comes to he plays the Saints. And, another very interesting situation coming into this year. I really thought, and this isn't the case now, but I really thought there were a couple teams that could have survived, or maybe I should say this, a couple head coaches that could have survived a terrible season this year, have your chance to tank for Trevor, get your pick. And I really thought Carolina was one of them. They signed Matt Rule to a 5-6 year deal, gave him a ton of guaranteed money, pretty much with the idea going, look, we're not going to be very good this year. If we are the number one pick, we keep Trevor in the Carolinas. We already have that immediate bump in notoriety, at least locally. But we're in a situation now where Carolina's going, no, we're actually going to try and go after the division title. I absolutely love it. And look, there's no point in tanking for a guy in college you don't know about. If you have a guy like Teddy Bridgewater, like you said, he's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not Lamar Jackson. But you know what? He's 3-2 right now. And with this franchise, your best offensive player is not under center. As long as Christian McCaffrey is wearing a Carolina uniform, he is going to be your best player. Act accordingly. Go out, get a game manager, build a defense. And then Carolina can build themselves and in a division that, like you said, I really do think they could be the second or third best team in this division. But a lot is still to be determined. Believe me, they still could just maybe fall apart, finish at 3-13. Who knows? Or they could just start rolling. We will see. This is kind of, I think, they have the witching hour in the NFL red zone. I think this is the next couple weeks will be the witching weeks. You're going to see some teams separate themselves. And Coach talked about winning ugly or winning not pretty or not pretty wins. Well, I can't think of a better segue to get into than the Philadelphia Eagles and more specifically the NFC least. And you know what? Look, you can make all the jokes you want. You can send me all the Among Us imposter memes you want. I don't care, because at the end of the day, currently, right now, the Eagles are in first place. And I believe at the end of the year, the Eagles will be in first place in the NFC East at 6-9-1. And you'll all be looking at me to apologize, and I will not. They will end up losing the wild card game, guaranteed. I know that. But at the end of the day, this is a situation. The Eagles on Thursday night face the Giants in the most unlikely first place game that you will ever see. The Giants end up taking a lead really late into that game. They have a 2-possession lead, and the Eagles, I'll tell you what, it reminds me a lot when I used to play catch with my dad. He would be a catcher, and he would call balls and strikes, and I'd always want to throw more than normal. So I'd throw 3 straight balls and then 3 straight strikes. And my dad would get mad and just go, throw 3 straight strikes. There's no need. I feel like that's kind of what the Eagles are doing it sometimes. They're just like, hey, let's let these teams get out in front and then we'll run them down. Believe me, the Eagles are not anywhere good enough to do that. I know that's not the case, but it just seems like that's been the situation. I go back to last week in terms of last Sunday against the Ravens. The Eagles had absolutely no business being in that game, but they were a 2-point conversion away from tying that game. Maybe more so against the Ravens offense. I'm not a big proponent of that Ravens offense. I think they took a step back, but it's a really, really tough situation for everyone in the NFC East, because you're, at least for certain divisions, you're expected to be absolutely amazing. And you need to be 10-6, 11-5 to win the division. Not in this one. So I wonder if that's going to start to affect the preparation for this team. Now, the Eagles got through kind of the meat of their schedule when they went up against the Steelers and the Ravens, obviously 0-2. Not really too much expected out of that. But this is key now. You have 10 days to get yourself ready for really the second half of this season. You're 2-4-1. It doesn't look great, but we all look now towards today. Look at the Cowboys and Redskins, which is essentially a pick'em game. Obviously, if you're an Eagles fan, you'll probably be cheering for the Redskins. Although that, I don't even know how the division, but that tie, I guarantee you, at the end of this year, that tie will come back and be great for the Eagles. I'm really at a loss of words for the Eagles offensive line. They drop passes, and I know, believe me, the Giants, Evan Ingram dropped the game-winning. All he had to do was catch that ball. It was a tough over-the-shoulder grab, but that might have been Daniel Jones's best throw of the night, and he just dropped it, allowed the Eagles to go down, get the win. This is a division, like I said, that mediocrity will win you this by 3 games, but we're not talking about mediocrity. We are talking about well below average football. But a big reason why I think the Eagles are below average is because they're injured, and everyone has to deal with it. I understand that. Believe me, the Cowboys can sit here and say, hey, we lost our franchise quarterback. But when you have guys like Travis Fulgham and Greg Ward and Richard Rodgers as your top pass catchers, it's going to be a challenge for the Eagles to go out, get a 22-21 win. That was very, very nice. And moving on for the Eagles, I think their first priority has to be get healthy and stay healthy. And then from then on out, it needs to be beat up on the teams you're supposed to. The next time you face the Cowboys, the Redskins, and the Giants, you need to beat these teams handily. When this team gets healthy, they're the best team in the division. And believe me, I know that's kind of crazy to say how bad they've been, but eventually I think they'll get healthy. I'm not talking about Deshaun Jackson. I love Deshaun Jackson. He is a Philadelphia legend, but I don't know if he can stay on the field anymore. Seems like every time he gets on the field, he's got about 3 or 4 plays, and then he's back on the sideline. Wish him the best of luck. But for the Eagles, this little extra mini bye week after a win is key. They'll, rest up for this week, but going forward, Carson Wentz cannot be hit on 50% of his dropbacks. And look, I'll be the first one to tell you right now, if this guy was made of glass, or if this guy was as injury prone as everyone says he is, he would have been out 3 freaking weeks ago. So, he's not Iron Man. He's not Cal Ripken in a football uniform, but he also is not made of glass. He's somewhere in between. Act accordingly, folks. So some news that did come down, obviously in the the NFC South. We're doing it again, folks. Antonio Brown is getting another shot. And look, this scares me. I mean, it's unbelievable. Tom Brady gets Antonio Brown. What are your thoughts on this as I go let my cat in before the cat breaks my door down?
So not only have the Bucs picked up Antonio Brown, they make a trade to address probably one of their better strengths on the team, and it just makes them stronger, picking up Steve McClendon, the defensive tackle from the Jets. But back to Antonio Brown, Tom Brady has an infatuation with this guy. And while it was a short sample size for them working in New England, Antonio Brown must have made this huge impression on Tom Brady. Tom Brady fought Bruce Arians and management to bring him in. They didn't want to bring him in, but Brady brought him in. And the only reason why I wanted to bring this up is for our gamblers out there, our bettors. They make these moves, and they're not under the radar moves because AB is a name. Steve McClendon is a player, but he's not a superstar name value kind of guy, right? Look at the numbers of what it's going to be for Tampa Bay to come out of the NFC South now. There might be a sneaky little pot for you if you put something down on them to win it now versus weeks from now when the numbers and their game with these moves, they hope to improve, right? But also their chances to get to a Super Bowl. I mean, everyone talks Super Bowl as soon as they sign Tom Brady. Whatever that number was isn't going to be what that number isn't going to be what it will be moving forward. So right now might be that time to place that $5 bet and pick yourself up a quick C note on something that you did ahead that while that number's lower. But AB gets another chance. And this is why it scares me, because the Saints actually brought in AB last year for a couple of interviews, a couple practices when we were down looking for that number 2 wide receiver. When they decided not to sign him, AB was like, it was just for role play. It was just a facade. It was just for show. Sean Payton this, Sean Payton that. The Saints general manager, Mickey Loomis, just brought me in for show. And he started trash talking. Well, now he's going to a conference rival. That doesn't sit well in my stomach, because if all that's true, giving a guy like AB added motivation to stick it to a team where they already have a guy like Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, OJ Howard, oh my gosh, and Tom Brady, and they're playing a whole lot better. It doesn't sit well with me. Yeah, I have all the utmost confidence in my boys, but man, we're not making any moves to counter anything. Yeah, we're deep and loaded and whatever, but we were also inconsistent. So look at the numbers. Look at what the line, not the line, but look at the numbers for the chances for them to win the NFC South, because they're probably lower now than what they will be in maybe after this week. Look at the numbers for them to get to the Super Bowl now versus what they will be in a couple of weeks, seeing how this all shapes out. And then if AB just blows up like we're prone to see the last 2.5, 3 seasons, you didn't waste much, but you made a risk. And that's what gambling is. You make that risk. You make that gamble on whatever that number is. So I wanted to bring that up just in that regard. But the trade deadline is next week, or the 4th. If it's anything like baseball, we could see some moves like to address certain needs. And if teams are the Jets, they're tanking for Trevor real quick, which that'll never work. Sorry, he's a Carolina kid. He's a down south, warm weather kid. It just doesn't happen in the big city. Sorry. A Southern California quarterback can't play well in Buffalo ever, nor in cold weather northeast, area of the U.S. Sorry, it's just what they. No,
I think it's a great point. And when it comes to AB, I think in this situation, AB signs and everyone immediately remembers, oh my gosh, how dominant he was, how for 3 or 4 years in his prime, he was pretty much guaranteed to catch 110 balls, 10, 15 touchdowns. Sure. But we're in new reality, and the situation is, it's been a long time since Antonio Brown came to a team and survived and got through the entire year. Now, Bruce Arians is in the upper echelon in terms of, I believe, control from coaches and being able to. I hate when they say keep him on a leash, because you don't want to keep human, but that's what I mean. Keep him in a situation where he's controlled. He's not, in the situation right now, one of two things. Either Antonio Brown is going to absolutely thrive in quarantine because he's not able to go out and do these things, or he is going to go crazy because he is so hardwired not to be. And I don't know Antonio Brown. I think everyone wants to believe they do. You don't. You just don't know Antonio Brown. I don't even know if the people really close to Antonio Brown know him, but that's just another thing. Anyways, this situation, how does he deal with quarantine? We've all dealt with quarantine differently, and we're not in a situation that these NFLers are. So I think that's a big part of it. How does Antonio Brown, who in normal life is already a little crazy, how does he deal with the extra stringency that is the bubble and everything that the NFL, we just saw the Titans get fined $350,000 because they didn't take COVID policies very, very seriously. Antonio Brown seems like the prime candidate to see on a Tuesday on TikTok to see him at a strip club. Sorry, just throwing out facts.
Raiders issues.
Yes.
Quarantine. You have anything news on that?
You know, well, so the news was obviously the Raiders last week coming off their big win, or 2 weeks ago, coming off their big upset win of the Chiefs. They move on. They move to their huge win. Unbelievable. Really kind of put John Gruden, probably the biggest win of John Gruden's second Raider career.
Right.
Then they go on a bye week. And, hey, it gets a little sloppy. Maybe you go out and you think, okay, well, we're on a bye week. So even if I do get Corona, I got, 2 extra days or whatever, blah, blah, blah. Well, up until yesterday, pretty much the entire offensive line was question mark to play. And the NFL was not giving any lifelines. This game was going off at 125 today, no matter what happened with that offensive line. Now, 4 of those offensive linemen have been cleared. They will play today. John Gruden has come out and said, we're ready to go. But I think this is a bigger issue or a bigger story in terms of how do you keep these guys under control? And like I said, just because I've said this a lot, coronavirus, COVID, whatever you want to call it, is very easily transmissible. And from everything we've heard, that's what we've been told. So I think the stigma, I think I talked about last week, the stigma of, oh, you got coronavirus, oh, you're just a dirty person or this or that. I don't think that's true. I really don't think these people are walking around licking doorknobs. Now, did you hand sanitize after you touched your nose? Let's all think about that. Do we all do that? No, probably not. Things happen. But when it is in this situation where you're all good, and then you kind of get let out for a week, you're on a bye, and then it all kind of goes down. It's just a little bit of lack of personal discipline. Now, pretty much every NFL team, or at least a high majority of NFL teams, have at least dealt with something like this, at least small amounts. I know the Eagles have had some players on the COVID injury list, not a whole shutdown, anything like that, not to the Titans level. But I think the NFL needs to look and understand that maybe on these bye weeks, the bubble maybe needs to tighten up a little bit. And I know that sounds crazy, but these are sacrifices these athletes have to make. Doesn't seem like a lot of them are making them. Maybe the NFL has to step in and maybe play government agent, government overreach, and just keep these guys, locked in their rooms.
Right. No, and that's not a bad call at all. If we want some completion to the, and let's just say per team, per city, a completion of, it's scary. Like, it's scary to me when facilities get locked down or closed. I'm like, whoa, it's bigger than 1 or 2 guys, So, well, another NFL week. Excited that the Big 12 began football play. Excited that Mountain West got some football play, and we're still kind of up in the air with the Pac-12. Oregon, I saw, had to shut down their practices because of a number of positive tests. College kids being college kids, hey, but they got to have some responsibility.
It's so tough. I think, obviously I was never a D1 athlete at that level, and it's so difficult for these kids who, they work their tails off all summer and fall and daily, to practice and, hey, go out, have some fun, live the college experience. Obviously, that's not the case these days for the Pac-12 and the Big Ten. Obviously, Big Ten got started yesterday, Mountain West as well. Pac-12 is a couple weeks away. They have done themselves absolutely no favors, putting themselves pretty much 8 to 10 games in an 8 to 10 week schedule. We've already seen in the SEC, the Big 12. Pretty much every conference that we've had to see teams take an unexpected bye week. Well, if the Pac-12 and the Big 12 or the Big 10 do that, they are going to miss games because there are no bye weeks for these teams. So it's a situation of you have to play these games out, or you're going to only play 7 games or 6 games. And I believe very soon the college football playoff committee is going to come out and make it that, hey, you have to play X number of games to be in the contention for the playoff. because I think you are going to see some teams play 6 games. You're going to see some teams play 10. It's just the way it is right now. But I am happy, especially for the student athletes, the seniors, the guys that are really working on their draft stock, or just guys that they've worked their tails off. The guys who have been sitting behind guys for 3 years, 4 years, this is their senior year to go out, show everybody what it's about. And while it's not ideal, they don't get all 12 games. They at least get something. I am glad that at least NCAA, I mean, they did whatever they could. Believe me, I don't think they did anybody any favors, but they have a season going, and that's really all that matters. And these kids have an opportunity to showcase their skills. And I'm really excited, especially with the Big Ten, because in all these conferences going, because it's really nice to wake up at 9 a.m. or, on the West Coast. And when we didn't have any really Mountain West or West Coast games, everything kind of ended at like 7:30. We didn't have the Hawaii games. We didn't have the San Diego State games. We didn't have the Boise State games at 7:30 or 10:30 for our East Coast friends. But yeah, 10:30, everyone maybe is getting ready for bed, but 7:30, I want another football game, darn it. Right. So we get that back. And mainly, like I said, these athletes get a chance to showcase their skills. Moving on to really, honestly, one of the craziest things I've ever seen, World Series Game 4. We all knew the situation. Dodgers up 2-1. Big difference between a 3-1 series lead or a tied 2-2. I don't think I have to explain that to anybody. No. Going into last night's game, the Dodgers looked the better team. Urias was dominant in his start. He did give up the home run late in that game, or late in that start. But the big blow was, of course, Brandon Lau's 3-run home run that put the Rays up 5-4. That really started the craziness. It's the first time in World Series history, I think we had 6 half innings in a row have a run scored. We saw Randy Arozarena break Barry Bonds' record for home runs in a World Series, although there also needs to be a caveat to that. Barry Bonds hit 8 home runs in, I think, like 50 at-bats because he was walked 30 times. Right. So congrats to Randy Arozarena, but before we make him better than Barry Bonds, let's just look at the facts here, folks. So that's not the case. But Randy Arozarena is kind of that face of the franchise for them. We head to the bottom of the 9th. In one of the crazier situations, you have Kenley Jansen, who is a all-world closer. The guy has some of the best, most nasty stuff in all of the game, facing Brett Phillips, who, with all due respect to my man Brett Phillips, and I think he would admit this too, has absolutely no business being in that spot that late in the game. The only reason he was in the game was because he was a pinch runner, and they didn't have another bench guy to get him off out of that box. Brett Phillips goes down 0-2, and this is my biggest problem with Kenley Jansen. You have to find a way to put these guys away. We're talking about a guy who's literally been put in for defensive purposes. This is your chance to put your team one win away from the World Series. And his put away pitch is a pitch that gets way too much of the plate. Brett Phillips beats the shift. I can't believe they're shifting. How does Brett Phillips have enough of a profile hitting that they even shift on it? Exactly. Barrels are overrated. He drops it in, and then the craziness ensues. We go from World Series to Little League World Series in a blink of an eye. Chris Taylor bumbles the ball, allows Randy Arozarena to come around third and fall. The throw comes home. I mean, I'm watching the game. The throw comes home. I'm trying to find Randy Arozarena. They said he was coming home. I don't see him. You're lying to me. Yeah, we're waiting for 2 seconds. Where's Randy Arozarena? Where is he? And obviously, Will Smith the catcher drops the ball. Randy Arozarena comes in to score, but there is one thing, and some people have brought this up. Yeah. But plenty of blame to go around. Max Muncy, why are you cutting the ball off? Right. I don't understand that. Yeah. I go back 2 innings before. Dave Roberts, what are you getting paid by the Pedro Baez pitches? Guy gave up 2 or 3 home runs, and you continue to keep him in the game. And then we also go to what I believe is the biggest mistake of the game and maybe of his career, and it's back to my friend Kenley Jansen. You have one job when you give up a base hit, and it's not to lay on the mound and feel sorry for yourself. It's to get your ass behind home plate and cover home plate. back up home plate. If Kenley Jansen is backing up home plate, Randy Arozarena is probably out. Instead, Kenley Jansen is halfway between the mound and home plate with his hands on his head going, oh my goodness. Come on, Kenley. I mean, we're in a situation that's little league stuff. Unbelievable game, unbelievable finish. And I'll tell you the one person who was absolutely heartbroken by that result, and it was Clayton Kershaw, because he went from having a relatively pressure-free start up 3-1 to now the biggest start of the World Series, the biggest start of his career. And look, he's got to chew his food today because he is a choking hazard. What were your thoughts on the World Series Game 4 in really one of the, I guess, for me, it was the craziest finish I've ever seen in a World Series.
7-7, 8-7 going up and winning it. It's a whole lot more of a run scoring than in games these previous 3, 4. I mean, what more do you want me to say other than you hit the nail on the coffin? Kenley, what are you doing? You're right. Stop sulking for yourself. But that pick, there's a picture that you posted. You can follow us on social media where his hands are just down and he's kind of like watching the play happen in front of him. And it's kind of like, yeah, man, you gave up that hit. You gave up the tying run. You still have a job to do. You got to get on the mound to throw that next pitch. Oh, whoops. I'm not backing up. My catcher dropped the ball. They score. They win. They're celebrating. They're running around like actually they won the whole gosh darn thing. I hope it doesn't negatively affect them today, with that exuberance of celebration, because it happens. There's a carryover. And yeah, they're pros. They know they got to come back down to reality. But I don't want to say anything negative. I don't want to put any bad juju out there for myself or for anyone else. Hey, it's in my opinion, given the shortened season, given everything that's gone down, COVIDs and games not played and guys on list and guys opting out and these playoffs, this World Series, it's caught my attention where I'll tell you right now, I could really care less. One, because the Dodgers are in it. But two, everything's so compacted with it right now that it's the center of attention. And as we're looking for positives in life, and sports, one of the positives in my life, hey man, I'm excited to watch it. I don't have to tell you who I'm cheering for. I think it's kind of obvious, but it's a positive, and it's really drawn me in. And this may not sound pretty, but who's talking about pretty right now? This shortened season did it for me.
Yeah.
It's good. I love it. I would have loved to. I know I would have completed an entire shortened fantasy baseball season versus the long one. I tried that for a couple of years. Just didn't work. But it is what it is. 2-2. Game 5 today?
Huge game today.
I
think
it's what baseball needed.
Exactly. And baseball, look, I'm a huge baseball fan, but I also do understand that the big reason why I am such a big fan, I played the game for 15 years. You learn a lot. It's hard to explain, it's the top of the second. It's a 2-1 pitch. There's a runner on first. Well, I can tell you all these things that are going on in my mind, but that just comes through the game. But then there's a game like that last night. You don't have to be a baseball fan to just go, wow, that was fun. Now, look, I'm a big fan of a 1-0, 2-1 pitchers duel, but I also understand that is not bringing the casual fan in to watch baseball. Last night's game was an incredible finish, an incredible ending. And really, I think you hit the nail on the head that this shortened season brought in the casual fan because you're not running the marathon that is 162 games. I kind of look at it kind of like an NBA game. You can probably turn the NBA game on with 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter and see about 70% of the game.
Right.
You can probably tune into baseball, August 15th, the last 6 weeks of baseball and get a pretty good idea of what's going on this season. Now, obviously, I'm in it for the long haul, but you're right. I think the shortened schedule brought some people in. I've heard some people saying, oh, maybe they should do 60 every time. That's never going to happen. 154 will be the lowest they go. And what league is stopping? Like, everyone wants more games. We're talking about money here. They're not going to get rid of games anyways, but it was just a great day for baseball. It really showed that, you don't really know when the excitement's coming in baseball, but last night you did. Everyone was kind of expecting that craziness. Moving on to another story that we wouldn't have been able to cover yesterday if we had done it. And that was the big UFC 254. What a fantastic card it was. I watched the whole thing. A really very nice card in terms of we saw, knockouts on 18-second knockout, and we saw some really good fights. The Cannonier Whitaker fight went all 3 rounds. It was an absolutely great fight. Of all the fights you wanted to go 3 rounds, that was the one, and of course it did. But the main story was Khabib, 28-0, going up against Justin Gaethje. I thought Justin Gaethje might have a chance. He's got that knockout power. But my goodness, once Khabib took Gaethje down, it was pretty much over. He got his back. And it was a situation where Khabib proved that it doesn't really matter where he is, what he's doing. He is superior in all things. He is an absolute beast. And now at 29-0, he is leaving his gloves in the ring. It was widely known in this past summer, unfortunately, for the Khabib family. I think it's Nurmagomedov. Yeah, I'm really bad at it. So we'll just call it the Khabib family. I don't want to ruin their name anymore. They unfortunately lost their father, a man who was incredibly respected in the fight game and obviously a huge mentor. That's probably an understatement, but really everything that Khabib fought for was for his father, and it was a fantastic story. Obviously, 29-0 in modern day MMA. Whenever you go undefeated, I don't care what you're doing. It is an incredible accomplishment. He leaves his gloves in the ring, very emotional after the fight. Excuse me. I absolutely loved the respect that these two fighters had for each other. Khabib is not one to give praise to an opponent, at least not openly. He did. He said he was going to beat Gaethje from the beginning, but he was very positive of Gaethje, and Gaethje obviously the same as well. And when Khabib won and broke down into tears as somebody who lost their father in the past year, you could feel it. And for Gaethje to go up to him and just for them to have that moment, honestly, I thought that was one of the best things I've ever seen in UFC. Khabib has a bit of a reputation after everything that happened after the McGregor fight with his corner. But I think that kind of got put to rest. Khabib, for me, look, I know Anderson Silva, GSP, they got to go. But you know what? They all have ones. They don't have zeros in that loss column. Khabib does for me. He's the greatest of all time. I would absolutely love to see him fight again, but I really don't think we will. He seemed pretty dead set on keeping his promise to his mom and his father, that his late father, I should say, that was his last fight. And if it was, I just want to thank him. I didn't watch him nearly as enough as I should, but his last 3 fights I did watch. He was an absolute incredible fighter. Really hats off to him. Best of luck in retirement. But like I said, selfishly, I kind of hope we get to see him one more time. I think that would be great. But at the current time, I don't think there's anybody in UFC who can even challenge him. So it's probably best for him to step away.
Or wants to, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, they even asked GSP. They said, hey, do you? And he goes, maybe 10 years ago, but I'm not fighting that guy now. Hell no, he'll break me. I mean, I've never seen a guy. We go back to the McGregor fight. Everyone goes, oh, what a great choke. He didn't tap because he choked. He was chapping because he broke his jaw.
Right.
He had he tried to choke him, but he didn't give up his neck. So Khabib goes, okay, I'll just break your jaw. And that's what happened. Even yesterday, Gaethje tried to tap out. I don't know what the referee was looking at, but the referee just let him pass out. But I really, dude, something I never really picked up. One last thing I'll say on UFC. Justin Gaethje was interviewed after it. He said, he goes, look, one of the best things about being choked out in a fight is generally health-wise, long-term, there's no negative. You don't break your leg, you don't break your hand. So he's like, I can go fight in 6 to 8 weeks. You would have to imagine he is going to more than likely be one half of the title when they end up finishing it up, because obviously Khabib will be done. His title will be vacated. So I imagine Gaethje will be one of those guys. Moving on to the final thing to really talk about will be some NFL picks.
Yeah.
A couple that I jumped out to me.
Tell me about it.
Is, for me, I really like Pittsburgh +1. I know Tennessee has had a really, really good season. They're obviously undefeated, but for me, Pittsburgh, I think it's the whole package. I think they have that experience. I like Pittsburgh. I mean, you could take the +1. I think it's even money on the money line. I like that one there. I also really like Cleveland to cover against Cincinnati. I think Cincinnati has their wide receiver core is, very big question mark. Is AJ Green, is he going to stay? Is he going to get traded? Who wants to be there? Who doesn't? Joe Burrow getting hit a lot. Cleveland with a really good pass rush. I like Cleveland to cover the 3. And one last one, we kind of talked about it earlier. I like Carolina to cover the 6.5. I think they're a team that is going to keep things close. We talked about Michael Thomas not being in, Emmanuel Sanders not being in. Now Drew Brees will find ways to get it to weapons, but they're not the big weapons that the Saints are kind of accustomed to having. And I like the ball control, the game manager that Teddy Bridgewater has become. Very, very interesting to see how that goes. So those are just 3 picks that I will be keeping my eye on. Make sure to follow me on Twitter. I'll have all my picks dropping in a little bit.
Also in regards to that, this is one of the greatest things that we ever do. Is we drop halftime adjustment picks, throughout. And it's not just those 3 picks that we talked about. It's kind of like what's going on TV at the time and kind of the way momentum goes. And, works most of the time. It works majority of the time. So it's NFL Sunday. Excited about that. And another 2 Bs on a pod.
Yeah. And it's one of my favorite Sundays too, because the Eagles aren't playing. So I can just chill, watch Red Zone all day, and just enjoy watching other teams fail and other teams get laughed at, because I'm, usually on Sundays from 10 to 1:30, it's turning my phone off so I don't get the memes and all those from my wonderful friends. But that is all we have for you today. Another fantastic show here, getting you ready for NFL Sunday. Coach Luipian, final thoughts as we get ready for another week. And here in the next couple days, football for the first time ever, really, around this time of year. We're going to have to be waiting for the weekends. We're not going to have hockey or basketball during the week to fill in our time.
My final thoughts are, thank you, Mr. First, for being so flexible with this show. I think since we came back, it's been about flexibility, and I appreciate that. And the listeners, thanks for being flexible. Remember to check out Vidget app. I checked that out during work. I didn't get a chance to really stay on as long as I liked, but check it out. And you know what? Again, thanks for the flexibility, and thanks for just another wonderful show. I mean, I come on, we do our thing, and we always seem to just have a good time about it. It's more or less that time that everyone misses, where we're sitting in the lawn, on the lawn, cracking open a couple of beers and talking sports.
I think of it like the King of the Hill. We're all just out in front.
Yeah. It's what it is for me. And it's a blessing to have. So I'm really appreciative of it. But
amen. And I
yeah.
thank you as well. You make it very, very easy to be flexible and to be here. And it's always an absolute blast because I think a lot of us, we don't have those situations. I absolutely used to love going to bars and just striking up a conversation here and there. Well, guess what? Not really the case these days. So this is kind of the sports bar mentality these days. And that's kind of what we like to bring here on that pod. And I'm very, very grateful for Brandon, Coach Luipian, for bringing up Vigit, a great thing to go find however you download apps on your Android or your iPhone. Vigit, Vigit. You're going to go, and when they ask you to sign up in the promo code, put in all caps RNG20. Ramblin, it's going to stand up for Ramblin and Gamblin, but RNG20, and that will get you another 1,000 coins. And one of the best things that I saw about this, and they say, look, athletes have practice fields. Well, why can't bettors? That's exactly what Vigit is. It's a situation. You get coins. You don't buy those coins. You are given coins. They have the real odds, and you have opportunities. Every week, I get into an NFL confidence pool. You can do it for college basketball or for college football as well. And I'm sure when all the other sports come back, they will have things going. So check that out. And once again, thank you to all of you listening. Thank you, Coach Luipian, for your time. And another fantastic week of sports and another fantastic pod wrapping everything up. Look, two B's on a pod. That's what we do. That's what we are here for you all. So once again, thank you all so much for listening. Sure. My name is Brandon Ferst, aka Ferst Report. Now go wash your hands and stop hating everybody and go out and vote in a couple days. Take care, everybody. Have a good day.